So you might want to consider adding a specimen tree to your front yard because there's studies that actually show that it can increase your property value, which is super cool. A specimen tree is basically a fancy tree, one that's going to stand alone and stick out. And so this front yard really could use something that kind of fills this garden area. I chose this black tulip magnolia, which is just beautiful, and I'm going to place it in the corner of the yard. So step number one is locating your tree. I'm about 6 feet from my wall here, about 4 feet from here. I need to consider how big my tree is gonna be when it fully grows in. I expect this to have about a 10 to 12 foot span, more or less. So over here, it's gonna creep into the yard a little bit, creating a nice accent. Over here, it might grow into the neighbor's yard, which could be an issue or not. It depends on if they like it. If it is a problem, then we'll just selectively prune some of these branches off so it's a nice, clean, flat side of this tree growing into this side over here. Thank God this is easy digging. This could take like 10 times longer if your soil sucks. Okay. So you want your hole twice as wide and just as deep as your container. About the same. To loosen the container, you just need to beat it up a little bit. This one isn't too bad, so I should be able to slide it off. If I had another pair of hands, or if my camera guy wasn't filming, we could pull this off a little easier, but you can do it by yourself. Okay. Oops. There we go. All right. Oh, you can see that it was a 5-gallon initially because all the soil fell off. So that's fine. I'm gonna keep the soil level about what it was, so I'm gonna dig it back to about here. But before I fully place it in, I wanna make sure that I'm facing the tree. Now, facing the tree is basically orienting where the branches are. So right now I like it because I have them kind of fish-boned out, where I have branches going this way and going this way, and not many coming my way, which is good because I don't really want it to grow into the neighbor's yard. All right, so that's good. The root ball is mostly intact. I lost some of the soil in the container, but mostly because it wasn't rooted in there. So here's a nice little pile. Now I'm gonna make a nice little baking mix of the existing soil, some of the soil from the pot already, and then some soil amendment. So sometimes you see people putting in like all brand new soil, and then it's like the plant is stuck in this little like false world of like fancy soil, which then it doesn't want to grow out. So the best thing to do is mix the fancy soil with the existing soil, and that way it's a little bit of a mix so the plant can acclimate and will be more willing to break into just the native soil underneath. The last thing that I'm doing now is I'm going to create a little berm around the outside. Kind of mold it together so that way when I water it, all the water stays in this area and doesn't run off to the other parts of the yard. Okay. So if you want, while you're planting it, that's also a great time to add fertilizer to the soil. For this plant, I'm going to use a whole organics, like a compost tea on top of it instead of fertilizer. See how it does. If it needs some fertilizer, I can add that later. But I always try and go organic. All right, so that's it for my specimen tree. It's a small patio tree. I can expect this variety to grow about a foot every year, maxing out probably around 15 feet or so, which is perfect for the small front yard. You probably also want to consider the size of the tree you put in. You definitely wouldn't want to overwhelm a yard like this with a giant 40-foot tree, so look into the final height and width of every tree. That's it. That's all I got for you.